everybody. So we are so excited today to have our bonus, episode of Talking Disney for this month. We have 2 episodes because we are talking about our first current feature film as part of this series. We're talking about the 57th Disney animated classic, only the second sequel that they've ever done as part of the canon. And we're talking about Ralph Breaks the Internet. And so this is really fun. I'm Rachel, and Stanford is here.
Hi.
Yeah, so we have to let you know. So we just saw this today, and we're recording it immediately, basically after we saw it. And so it's not gonna be quite the same as our typical Talking Disney, but we just wanted to get it out there as quickly as we could. And this was really fun to get to be able to chance to see this movie. And if you want to listen to our episode on the original Wreck-It Ralph, I'll put a link down in the description. You should check it out. There will be some spoilers in this, so if you haven't seen it,
that's right.
And until
spoiler alert,
spoiler alert. And but there will be a few things that we can't really exactly remember because we don't have the same kind of notes that we normally would have. But I did my best to kind of put it all together, and I do have the junior novelization.
Yes,
that I looked at for some help, for most of the things. So, this is going to be fun. A new take on the podcast for this episode. So, Stanford, what were your overall experience at this film?
So, I didn't go in there with any kind of dread per se, but I think I was cautiously optimistic. As you were saying, this is only the second sequel that they've done at Walt Disney Animation Studios for one of their feature films. Wreck-It Ralph, as we discussed it, in this previous podcast that you're mentioning, was not my favorite. I mean, I didn't hate it by any means. I think there was much to like, but it's not one that I just loved,
Mm-hmm.
And so I went in there just, I think, almost like as a duck and cover, okay. I mean, I was excited, but nervous, I was wanting it to be good, and yeah. So that was how it started off for me. How about for you?
Yeah, I'm the same. I like Wreck-It Ralph fine. It's a fun movie, but I just don't think I think it's overpraised. I don't think it deserves to be in I see it in top 10 Disney movies of all time and such. And I just think the story is pretty pedestrian. And I think Sugar Rush is very pedestrian. I don't think it quite delivers on what it's kind of sets out to do in the beginning of the movie. I think that the Lego movie executes that same idea much better than in Wreck-It Ralph. And I don't know, it's fine. I like it just fine. I just don't think it's great. And so that's where I guess I separate from a lot of the Disney fandom. But anyway, and so I kind of had the same feeling. I did not like the trailers, except for the last trailer where you got to see more of Slaughter Race. That made me, okay, it's not just going to be a bunch of internet puns and internet jokes. Like, it's going to have a story. And I actually read this junior novelization previous to seeing the movie because I don't care about spoilers. I'm not a spoiler person. I don't care. And a bunch of people online had read it and were like outraged at the ending. And I read it and I was like, it's fine. I like that. What are they complaining about? I have no idea. So I kind of had a little bit of an idea of what I was going into, but because of that, but that still only kind of gives you the bare bones of the plot. It doesn't really it's not the same as the movie.
Right.
And so I was cautiously optimistic because you're never going to find me not excited for a Disney movie. That's not
right. Exactly. Yeah.
I still gave it, I think in the preview show that I did with David Healy for this month's movies, I think I gave it 3.5 out of 5 of anticipation. So, I wasn't it wasn't a 5, but it was solid. The hardcore fan that loved the first one, how they respond to this versus you and I, who were a little more lukewarm about the first one and how we responded. That's going to be kind of interesting to watch.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, agreed.
So what in the end did you think about it?
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved this sequel. I thought it was just an absolute blast and funny, clever, and heartfelt. I thought in really good, interesting ways. And I knew something was going to happen at the end. A good friend of mine got to see a early screening of it a few months ago, and he didn't tell me anything other than, the ending really threw me off. And so I just but he didn't tell me what. And so I thought, well, okay, it'll be interesting to see what it was. And it sure didn't throw me either. I mean, as you're saying, like with the novelization. In fact, I thought it worked. Yeah. Because it seems to me like a real natural progression for these characters. And I know we'll get into that. But anyway, I loved it. I loved it. What about you?
I agree. I thought it was great. It was, I think this movie was hurt a little bit too by the Emoji Movie last year. And, it feeling like, what is Disney doing? Yeah. And I felt like the princess scene that they showed us at D23, it felt very Shreky to me. And the first 2 trailers, I was like, I don't know, is this just going to be a whole bunch of internet puns and lazy jokes that'll be outdated in 6 months? And so I think that's sort of all of a combination of factors of why a lot of us were a little bit nervous about this movie. And I thought it really worked. I thought it did a lot of things that the first one didn't do that the Lego Movie did. It went to a lot of different games, a lot of different lands.
Yes,
it had tons of characters that were really, really fun. And I actually thought that almost every single joke was relevant to the plot.
Yes.
And part of the story. It wasn't just like, there might have been like some background jokes or something like that, but there was very little that was just a gotcha kind of funny like joke like that, like it like, for instance, in Moana, the Twitter joke was just the worst part of the movie for sure.
We all hate it. I mean, it was
we all agree on that. And that felt like so out of place. And so, it's just like purely kind of a cheap trick for laughs. And I was kind of worried. And that's to me how a lot of the Shrek movies are personally, or the Minions movie. It's like, it's sort of a parody. It's a satire joke, but it's not part of the story. It's just kind of an aside that's in there just to be like, oh, look, we're making fun of this popular movie or popular television show, as opposed to it being a character and that character being part of the story, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely.
Like the funniest parts of Shrek, at least Shrek 2, the funniest parts of Shrek, in my opinion, are usually from Donkey, and it's part of the story. To me, that's a lot funnier than most of the fairy tale satire parody. And I'd say the same thing about Shrek 2. The parts that are actually funny, usually to me at least, deal with Charming and the fairy godmother, who are part of the story. Those are funny, as opposed to, like, I don't know, I think they have a Little Mermaid joke with them, making out on the beach or whatever, and it's like, that's not really funny to me. I don't know. So that's kind of how I guess I'm not really that big of a fan of parody, because even if you look at the original Airplane, which is parody, of course, it's like the ultimate, the I Ching, or Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Almost all of Monty Python is part of the story. It's like crazy and bonkers, but like it's literally they're going on their quest and they're moving the step forward.
Moving the story forward. Yeah.
It's not just there for laughs. And so anyway, for all those reasons, I was kind of nervous that it was going to be this attempt to be a Minions, a Shrek kind of movie, and that's just not my taste. It's not what I like. So anyway, I went in and I I did. I really liked it. I thought it was really funny. I thought it had some things that really surprised me. There were a
Yeah.
couple of things I was like, eh. But for the most part, I thought it was really good. It had heart. I felt like I got to know the characters much better than
Yes.
in the first movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, so anyway, I was really pleased. So I like I said, we might get a few things wrong. This is just going off of one showing and the kind of our memories and the book. So forgive us, but we'll kind of dive
Yes.
into the story. If you want to, like, from now on, we've kept it spoiler free up until now. So
Yeah.
if you want to stop, then you can listen.
We'll see you later.
Yeah, that's right. So
And have fun in the movie.
yeah,
For
that's
sure.
right. So yeah, so it starts at the movie with the game, and Vanellope and Ralph are talking in the train station, or the power outlet station, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Grand Central
And
Station or whatever they
yeah,
call it. Yeah.
and she's eating these hamburger, and he's eating a
The
cherry.
Pac-Man cherry.
Pac-Man cherry.
Yeah.
And you have her talking about how she's just getting bored with her game. She's tired of it. And Ralph, he just can't understand this because he thinks that he's living the greatest life to ever exist. And I thought this was a really good conflict to have, because I think that's actually the very common conflict. You have one person who likes things to be basically the same and likes things to be consistent, and that gives them joy. Then other people, they get so bored out of their mind by that. And I think that I'm kind of one of those people that needs kind of consistency and needs things to be planned out. And I could eat probably Italian food, or like I could probably make a list of like 5 dishes, and I could probably have those dishes every single day of my life and never get tired of them, because that's just what I like. And I can watch 37 Hallmark movies at Christmas and be fine and not get tired of them. I
Yeah.
For some reason, other people will be like, I can't take it anymore. I'm so tired of this. But for whatever reason, I don't have that gene. And I mean, it's like everybody else got so tired of Frozen. I really didn't, because that's just not my personality to get like OD'd on things. And so I could relate to Ralph in this sequence and but then other people, they get bored, they need to switch it up. My dad is kind of one of those people. It's probably the way we're the most different, is that he's had probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 different careers in his. I mean, he's always been sort of an entrepreneur, so that's been consistent. But like the sort of the career that he's working on at the time has changed. He's done. He owned a framing shop at one point. Then he got into, sounds crazy random. He went to law school, got his law. Then he owned a framing shop. He's done professional photography. He developed a software at one point, which was really random, for teaching English to. And then he ended up, for a time, he was doing computer labs to help teach English in schools when we lived in Maryland. And then he's worked as a CEO for all these different companies. And so he's had many, many different hats that he's put on over the course of his life. And that's his personality. And that's what he likes. And I don't know, could you relate to that kind of conflict?
Well, yeah, and not so much personally. I mean, yes, personally, because I think I kind of fall in the middle, because I really do like variety, but then I also think having routine is important too. But I thought it was really cool with Ralph, I guess with both of them, to see where they are, because the movie is truly set, 6 years after the original.
Yeah, 6 years.
And it's nice. Ralph seems, he's at peace, as he was at the very end of the film, the original film. And he and Vanellope are just buddies. So, basically every night after the arcade closes, they they go to Tappers and get a root beer.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, they have this routine, and they'll go and play around in other games. I loved how they went into the Tron game. That was like fantastic.
Yeah, that was really, really fun.
Funny and just fun, I mean, just the way that was.
They went into way more games. Like even in the first 10 minutes.
The first 10 minutes.
They went into way more games than the last time, for sure. They were in Sugar Rush, they were in Tapper, they were in Fix It Felix, they were in Tron. And I know that even a couple more. They were in that football game.
Oh yeah. Which was so fun. Just
so good.
Instant. So it's like, they're having this conversation, but they kept changing the scenery, and that really kept it interesting. And and so I just liked where they took both characters, because it made sense, but also, you said it set up the conflict, right? About staying the same or needing to change. Yeah,
it's really interesting because I don't know, it was very easy for me to relate to, which I don't, and I think the first one is pretty easy to relate to, with sort of being that feeling to being an outsider, being bullied. There were a lot of themes, but I don't know, I even related more, I think, to this and the themes.
Oh, absolutely. I think instantly they just felt more relatable, and I think that's the one advantage, or a big advantage of I think of a well done sequel, in that it really is a good continuation of these characters, because we meet up again with Fix It Felix and with Sergeant Calhoun, who are married, and they're not in the film a lot, but yet it's interesting. It's cool to see them and to see how their lives are progressing. And they make some interesting choices, which
hilarious.
But anyway, I thought that the filmmakers didn't waste a lot of time reintroducing things. They just hit the ground running.
Yeah,
which I thought was a really good choice.
Yeah. Agreed. And it has the same sort of visual appeal, the animation.
Identical almost, right? I mean, it just looked, So, and a lot of these same, Sonic is in there, and Zangief, and and these other characters that we recognize from from the original, that are there at the arcade, that are in the arcade.
Yeah. So they set up this initial conflict of Ralph liking the sameness of life, the feeling he's just living the great life, and Vanellope getting antsy. And then we get a new plug into the outlet, which is very exciting. And it turns out it's Wi-Fi, or as Sonic tells us, it's Wi-Fi. And
Wi-Fi.
And so they went with Sonic in this one. There was some disappointment online that Mario wasn't going to be in it, but I was fine with that. It would have been fun, I guess, but
because I don't think Mario was even in. Maybe there was some kind of a random cameo or something, but I didn't see Mario at all.
He was.
Yeah. Pac-Man was there, and some others.
Because the Nintendo has, ever since the Mario movie was such a disaster, they've never allowed him to be licensed.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was such a bad experience. So, which is, it's interesting. But anyway, and so the Wi-Fi is plugged in. There's the surge protector guy, he puts all this caution tape around it, so it's very dangerous. And
I love surge protector.
Yeah.
He's great.
And so Ralph decides that he's going to try to make Vanellope happy, and so he carves a new path for her in the race, and so you kind of see that going on, and she goes on the path in one of the races, and it causes tons of problems. And there was more of this in this movie. There was more actual interaction in this scene, at least, with the players playing the game,
Right.
than there usually is. Because the girl playing the game, because that wasn't true really at all last time.
Yeah.
So the girl playing the game is like, what's going on? It's not, it's just doing its own thing. It's not following my, things. And so the girl is steering, and she actually rips the steering wheel off of the game. And so it ends up being this disaster, and they have to so Latwick, is that what it is? Litwack
Yeah.
ends up
Mr.
Litwack ends up unplugging the game, and this is of course a disaster, and they get all of the characters out of the game in time, and they're in the strip outlets, and they're kind of like refugees.
Which is fun because it is, all the, as you recall, all the little pieces of candy that are from Sugar Rush, and then Sour Bill makes a little cameo again.
Yeah.
I love Sour Bill in the original.
Yeah.
And he's voiced by the director Rich Moore too, so that's fun. And also the donuts, Winchell and Duncan. The policeman donuts.
I liked them in the first one.
Yeah, I did too. They were funny, and they're the other back. But yeah, so everybody from Sugar Rush is now homeless.
Yeah, and so we have two things kind of happening. Felix and Calhoun end up deciding to take in all of the girls from Sugar Rush, Taffeta.
Yeah, all the boys and girls from the little bratty kid racers.
Aren't they all girls?
There's some boys.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I forgot. Okay.
Francis, I can't. We'll have to look at the names again. But yeah, there's mostly girls, but there's at least two. I think at least two or maybe three.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so anyway, they decide to do that. Like Felix is like, I don't know about this.
It's just like, yeah.
They were really funny. They were my favorite. One of my favorite parts of the first film. And even though they're not in it a ton, they were still really, really great.
Yeah, it's funny. The jokes are good.
Yeah.
This one. When they, that both Fix and Felix and Sergeant Calhoun, but even though they're married, is still funny to me. And then they choose to you kind of like foster, all the bratty, these bratty racers. Sugar Rush. It's fun. It was funny. Yeah.
And they can hear the Mr. Litwack and these two girls that were playing the game talking, and they say that on eBay, or eBoy, as they say, that on eBay that the steering wheel is going to cost $300, and Mr. Litwack is saying, well, this game doesn't even make that much in a month, so how could I possibly spend that much on it? Maybe time to retire it. And so that's what kind of sends Ralph and Vanellope on their journey to the internet, and to try to find eBay and to find this steering wheel. And Ralph at first doesn't really understand, because Vanellope has just said that she didn't really like how boring it was, but then once it's facing destruction, she's feeling really sad, which I think that's very relatable too.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's like, oh, it's still my home, even though I had issues and concerns and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was very relatable. So they decide to go online and go to eBay. And I think that the sequence through the cable in the Wi-Fi is really beautifully animated, really cool.
Wasn't it cool?
Yeah,
I loved it too. So interesting. Yeah, so Ralph and Vanellope, because they can travel through the cables, they travel up into the modem, and then journey through the wires, and it's so cool because they show both what's happening on the outside, in the human world, and then what's going on within the wires, and it's really clever.
I wouldn't be surprised if they could make a ride
Oh,
out
wouldn't
of
that be
that.
fun? I
It'd be
know.
really fun. It would kind of
It's so
spaced out
fun.
me.
Yes.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah, so cool.
with like all the lights and the colors can be surrounding
Yeah.
you. That would be really
It'd
good.
be really fun.
You know?
Yes.
So, so they go online, and their very first interaction, aside from the initial online world, is it's interesting because I feel like the difference between the Emoji Movie, there's many differences, but just in the world building, there's some actually decent world building in the Emoji Movie. I think it's not that badly animated, in my opinion. Just the story, and I think the thing that makes just in the world building make it work better is you have characters from outside of that world entering the world, and so there's a little bit more awe and wonder here.
Yeah.
Compared to sort of a more cynical, where literally the character is meh and he's living in the world. So there's never a sense of like, I'm coming to this magical place called the internet in that movie. And everything is very cynical. And so here they immediately they land, and you get the sense of sort of awe and wonder. And you see all of the different users of the internet, which are sort of more of like, they almost look like a Funko Pop.
Yes. They've got kind of this big rectangular head.
Yeah.
And this little body. And it's like a Funko Pop of their it's like kind of like an avatar of their user.
Yeah.
Which is a really clever idea, because they saw in the preview, you see on the poster, like, okay, I wonder who all these different people are. But yeah, so everybody with a rectangular head, they're like the user, the computer user that's out visiting websites and doing online shopping and, just doing transactions and things.
Yeah. And I think that, again, we won't talk about Emoji Movie too much, but the reason why I think it works so much better is that in the Emoji Movie, you have these cynical emojis that are literally, he's trying to become more cynical. He's trying to become more of a meh, but he just like doesn't have it in him. But like the teens that are using the phone, like can't communicate at all without their phones, and they can't. So like it's so much better in here with these avatars that are the people that you just see briefly, you see like the kid playing the video game, playing Slaughter Race, who's like, what, but it's never in a cynical way,
Yeah, exactly. And I felt too that the same thing, Rach, that's what really helps set this apart, is that it's not cynical. I mean, there's some smart alecky stuff. I mean, it's Rich Moore, for heaven's sakes, right? But it's not cynical, and that's really, I think, one of the reasons why I think it's so good. They just didn't take it there. Again, that's one of the things I think we were scared about, right? That was probably that could happen. I mean, it looked like it could easily go that route, and thankfully it didn't.
I agree. So how do you feel about there's going to be people that are going to say, oh, it's just a whole bunch of product placement. How do you feel about that and how they handled it? And
so a really good question. Because when I first saw one of those trailers or one of those, images from the film where Ralph and Vanellope arrive and they're looking out at the internet, and they see all these brands, right? There's Facebook and Google and eBay and BuzzFeed and all these different things. For me, when watching the film, I mean, seeing the preview, it looked like, oh dear, this is blatant product placement, and kind of seemed out of place. But in context, I thought it was really placemaking. Like it just felt like this is what the internet could look like if this whole thing were kind of real, the way it's real. For me, it really worked.
Yeah, because everything that they do for the most part, there's like a few times where they just sort of crash into Amazon or crash into certain things, but that's very brief.
Yeah.
Almost everywhere that they go is part of the plot and part of the story.
It's part of the plot. Yeah.
Again, to use the Emoji Movie as an example, in the Emoji Movie, there's an entire scene where the characters play Candy Crush for no reason. It is completely unnecessary for the plot. It is literally just to promote Candy Crush. And there's a whole scene with like Dance Dance Revolution, which I don't even think is an app, or it wasn't anymore. And so it's just like, what's going on here? And so here, every single place they go is an important part of the plot. And so I think it becomes a lot more forgiving and a lot more fun. You don't feel, it's not like I hated the live action Smurfs movie, where literally almost every single shot of that movie, of both movies, is promoting some kind of Sony product.
Yeah.
I mean, they're either like sitting on a laptop of some kind, or there's some kind of advertisement behind them, and it doesn't have anything to do with the story. And so it just feels like it makes you feel sick that all they're doing is trying to sell stuff to kids. That's it. And so that's what I think is the difference between this, is that it's just integrated really seamlessly into the story.
Yeah, I totally agree. And for me, I mean, it just felt comfortable. You know, you see these different brands, and you're just like, you know, I know that website, and even though they were making some kind of a visual interpretation of you know, it in the Wreck-It Ralph world, still I thought that it worked, rather than having like all these puns, you know.
Yeah.
Like instead of using Google, they use some other thing that you knew was Google, but it wasn't Google. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I thought I thought it worked.
The only one that was like that was BuzzTube. Do you think could they just not get permission from YouTube? I mean, I know there's BuzzFeed.
Yeah, I wondered. Yeah, if they couldn't either they couldn't get permission from YouTube, or they were using like a combo of BuzzFeed, because it seemed a lot more BuzzFeed like than YouTube like, even though it totally was YouTube, right? Yeah. Good point.
So, but other than that, they were all pretty legit. And so, I think that's what separates it from the good parody. It's not a parody film. Like those other films are parody films.
Yeah.
This is not. And so there's also, when they first arrive, you see I thought it was really clever the way they did. Each character is kind of holding, it almost looks like a dry erase board. And then there's a spot, you click, and then a little like car will pick you up and take you to that spot.
Yeah.
And so there's all of these spammy characters that have all different kinds, lose weight, this so-and-so, you know, child celebrities in prison, all of this stuff.
Those are funny to me.
Yeah. And there's one spammy who it says how to make money online. Spammy is, I mean, it might be Alan Tudyk because he just does a lot of the voices.
Right.
But anyway, so but there's this guy, Spammy, and and Ralph's first like getting all distracted, and they end up at the Knowes-More. They end up at the Knowes-More site, and this is kind of like I mean, I guess Knowes-More is kind of a fake one, but
Knowes-More is one that they made up. It's because it's kind of like it's Google Plus. I mean, not even Google Plus, because that's not the social network. It's like enhanced Google. Like you can get, not only can you get search results, but you can also get some like true answers.
Maybe it's kind of similar to like a combination of Wikipedia and Google.
Yeah, I think so too.
They have Google in the movie briefly. But anyway, so Knowes-More. And it's like, I feel like more forgivable because it's actually a character It's
Yeah.
not just a site. It's not just a world or whatever. So knows
Yeah.
more, and he is voiced by Alan Tudyk.
And
And
he's a cool character. And I
yeah,
loved his character design too,
yeah,
because it looked like something that you'd see even in like a 2D animated
yeah.
feature from Disney.
I agree. It kind of reminded me of, I don't know, of something from the 90s a little bit.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Something from like Hercules or something like that.
Yes, yeah.
I agree. And so he directs them to eBay. They get to eBay, and the auctions are all there. And
that's such a fun sequence
yeah.
too, because truly, it's just a whole bunch of auctions. I mean, there's an auctioneer, and it's heightened, but just some of the fun and silly things you see on eBay. You know? Yeah.
And it's too bad that they didn't have a buy it now option.
I know.
That would be very nice. Saved a whole lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they get it really hyped into the auction. There's another person there bidding, and
one of those Funko people, just the person.
And I think you might briefly see the person bidding also.
Yeah, I think when I see the human, there's actually building. It's like, what is happening here?
Yeah, because they just start bidding each other.
Yeah, they don't know what they're doing. They've never done this before.
And it ends up at over $27,000, and they get the basically receipt from the head of the eBay. And as they're going to check out, the lady asks for their credit card, and he's like, credit card number, and he's like 11. That's not a credit card number. 7.
Yeah.
So it's really funny. Like, I don't know. And so they find out that they have 48 hours to get the money for this this payment, and it has to be, they have to get it then, because they only have so many days before the game is going to be picked up.
Before the game is going to get salvaged for parts.
Yeah. And so they're kind of desperate, and I liked they actually have an e-boy.
E-boy. Who's like he's the reminder, that you get.
Notification.
The notification. Yes.
Yeah. It was really cute, and I liked they have Sean Giambrone as E-boy from the Goldbergs. I remember seeing that on the screen, and as I'm like, oh, look at him.
Yeah.
But that was a cute joke. He would appear periodically through the movie, and that's what I was saying when I feel like almost every single joke had something to do with the plot. Like, E-boy showing up is like important to the plot. It's not just a parody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's the way they do it is funny, because it's like, oh yeah, this is a notification, but it's funny. Yeah.
And so then they decide to go to Spammy because he remembers the whole want to earn money online thing that he had. So they go to him, and he directs them to go to Slaughter Race and get this car from Shank. Get Shank's car. And so Slaughter Race is this sort of post-apocalyptic style game. And for whatever reason, it seems like post-apocalyptic it's like a popular theme these days in animation, because you got I know you have the Lego Movie 2 has things like that. I just feel like there's a couple others that I've seen that have sort of that feel in the trailers, at least.
Yeah.
Which is really random.
For me, it felt like a post-apocalyptic Fast and the Furious.
Yes.
And which was so much fun. It was just such a fun, interesting take on it. On a racing game.
Yeah.
So it was like the anti-Sugar Rush,
Yeah, which makes so much sense, because Gal Gadot was literally in Fast and the Furious.
Right, I know. So I love that they cast Gal Gadot, and she's so good. She's so good in this.
Really, really good. She plays Shank, the leader of the Slaughter Racers, I guess.
Yeah.
And I liked the whole team.
Oh,
Obviously,
I did
they're really
too.
pretty,
I
but
love the team.
yeah, they're really fun.
Yeah.
There's Pyro and Felony. I really like
Little
Felony.
Debbie, I think, is another one.
Yeah, Little Debbie and Butcher Boy.
Yeah.
They were really good. And and yeah, and there were some really brilliant racing sequences that were very you felt it almost reminded me a little bit of in like Ready Player One, some of those early those scenes, but they just felt really kinetic and and just constantly there were obstacles that were constantly in their place, and you see how Vanellope is able to navigate, go backwards at times, different things. Really good driver, and Shank is like, wow, that girl can drive. Really impressed.
She gets Shank's respect, you know,
Yeah.
even though they're trying to steal her car.
Yeah, and she uses her glitching at times to help her. She almost gets out, but just before they're leaving, just before she's about to get out, then Shank kind of surrounds them, and they tell her why they need the car, and she's like, oh, that's really sad, and they're like, so we can take the car, and she's like, heck no. And so what she does is she holds a like leaf blower up to Ralph's face and makes kind of a funny video, and she says, take this over to BuzzTube and tell them to upload it, and it'll be a great thing. And so I think this shows that she's a nice person,
right? And is it Shank too who's friends with the algorithm, or is it somebody else who is Shank, right?
Yeah, no, it's her, and I think she tells them to go to
BuzzTube and go see the algorithm named with 3 S's, and she'll help you. So
meanwhile, Penelope loved this game of Slaughter Race.
Right. This game totally opened her eyes to a whole new thing.
Yeah. Which makes sense, because if you look at the difference between, I mean, I'm no gamer, but if you look at the difference between a arcade game, which how many levels does it have, especially a racing game like that? Probably not that many, because people don't play racing games at an arcade over and over and over and over again, where some of these multiplayer games online, people spend every day multiple hours a day at these games, so there has to be way more levels and way more design.
So Slaughterhouse was kind of almost like, would it be considered kind of like a Fortnite or some other thing too, even though, I mean, it's a racing game, but it's one of these worlds that
they credited Fortnite.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
I mean, again, I'm speaking way out of my league here, but maybe Grand Theft Auto a little bit.
No, good point. More definitely like that. Yeah.
And I know Need for Speed is a game. Maybe that's maybe maybe they have a little bit of that in there, but it's certainly not. Some people might look at those images and the character designs and stuff and be like, oh, it's gonna be scary. It's really not. They're very sweet. They're very nice. They're
actually really cool. It's
kind of similar to like the Ruffians and Thugs.
Yeah.
So they don't need to be worried about that. So they get to BuzzTube and they upload the leaf blowing thing. And you see there's like this guy who's super bored at this office, and he sees him like laughing.
Everybody's workplace, at one time or another. This cubicle farm. And then people are just surfing looking at YouTube videos.
And then one person watches, and the next person. And so then he meets with Yes, who's this algorithm voiced by Taraji P. Henson. What do you think about her?
Well, actually, I really liked her character. when I first learned, about that she was the voice, and also seeing the character designs, I kept wondering, like, oh, is she going to be like the villain? What
Yeah.
what is she about, and what are her motivations?
Yeah, that's
But
very true. I could have totally seen her being a surprise villain. Surprise.
yeah, and
Yeah.
thankfully she wasn't, and
Yeah.
she was an algorithm, and who was very stylish. She has some really fancy, lots of wardrobe changes, and she's funny because she's like you just picture, like, yeah, if she was like this BuzzTube, employee, you totally get it. I mean, it would totally make sense, because I loved how she was throwing out hearts like it was they were like it was currency, you know,
Yeah.
and because it is. I mean, that's the way these things work. And I thought her character was surprisingly cool, and thank goodness she was not a surprise villain.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely had that worry because it's just been so many in a row from Disney.
Yes.
And so, yeah, the fact that her role is basically she's an algorithm that determines trends, what's going to be trending on BuzzTube. And so she was actually sweet and nice.
Sweet, and she was helpful. Yeah, she wanted to help.
Pretty much everybody, except for maybe, I guess, the dark web, but they're just sort of like organized crime.
Yeah.
There's really not a villain in this movie.
No, it's not. I mean, really, kind of. Yeah, it's as we'll learn, it's mostly just this dynamic between Ralph and Vanellope, and that's what kind of becomes the villain, Yeah,
that's true. I guess the giant Ralph becomes the villain.
Well, the giant Ralph, but also their insecurities that which we'll talk about.
Yeah, very, very true. And so he works with Yes to come up with all these different videos, uploading all these different videos. There's like his face on a goat.
Yeah, the screaming goat. Yeah. And doing the floss dance thing.
Yeah.
That's a funny sequence of all these videos that we've all seen,
Yeah.
They're all starring Ralph.
That was really brilliant. And you get to see more people watching his videos, more human characters. And he's still not getting enough likes, though, for them to make enough money for the steering wheel. And so that's what sends Vanellope to the internet to try to get more likes. It sends them to... it says, I'm redirecting our newest little pop-up to the happiest place online. Try to, because she says, Ralph, that's right. She doesn't go to Noah's more. So what happens is that Ralph and Yes and are talking, and Vanellope, and Ralph actually says, why don't you send her somewhere a little more... Ralph spun the globe, searching for the best and safest site for Vanellope. How about fan sites? She is technically a princess, so maybe you could send her to this one with the castle. And you see the little Sleeping Beauty castle. And Yes says, good call. I'm redirecting our newest little pop-up to the happiest place online.
Yeah.
And
which is Oh My Disney.
Right. And so, Vanellope... a little later, Vanellope gazed around the busy site called Oh My Disney. Wow, this place is bonkers, she said. Avatars flittered around, characters of all shapes and sizes, clicking on everything around them. Sheesh, is there anything this Disney joint doesn't own? She said to herself. And there's a good joke way. Eeyore says, if there is, they'll buy it eventually. You see tons of characters. You have Buzz Lightyear in there. You have
Nick Wilde from Zootopia.
Yes. Yeah. How did you think? Yeah. How did you think they handled all of that?
That frankly was the scene I was a little worried about, because I mean, there were some laughs in the preview, but I thought, is this just going to be Shrek? Is this just gonna, and it wasn't. It was. I just thought it was hilarious. They they handled it with a light touch. It's pretty fast paced, but again, the majority of the gags move the plot forward.
Yeah.
So I thought it was funny. It was Disney making fun of itself, but not really. I mean, it was just. I mean, they weren't. I don't think they were being really mean spirited, about anything. They were just. It was kind of a fun way to talk about it. Oh My Disney does all those Facebook quizzes and things.
Yes.
And so they show one of those. Like, wasn't it Which Princess Are You?
Yeah, so it's Which Princesses Are You?
Yeah.
And they get up there and the announcer says, "Your last question, my friends would describe me as blank. In the real world, a girl read the options: smart, funny, kind, brave." And she said, "I guess I'm kind. Based on your answers," said the announcer, "your princess BFF is Snow White." And so then
Snow White comes out, and
yeah,
or really, it's like an internet. What would be the right word, Rachel? Because they're really not the characters.
Yeah.
They are representations of, like computer representations of the characters. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because many people, including myself, were very critical of the designs. I still really don't like the Cinderella. She just looks terrible to me. But it is true that these aren't the princesses. And I think part of it is it's just very jarring to see the traditional princesses in CG. That was very jarring. But again, these are just for it's like an avatar.
Yeah, they're the avatars of the princesses so they're a little off model, but they fit within the kind of the Wreck-It Ralph aesthetic.
Yeah.
And however, they are all voiced by all the princesses that are actually living, and the ones, Snow White, Cinderella, and Sleeping Beauty are voiced by other actresses, because of course the actresses who voice them aren't. No, Mary Costa's still alive, but they didn't use her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you get to a certain age and your voice changes.
Yeah, you can.
So you can't really do that. But it made my heart happy when I heard from Paige O'Hara at Comic-Con, Salt Lake Fan X or whatever they call it now, that she said that they had actually aged her out of playing Belle, voicing Belle, which shocked me that they would do that. And so she said that one thing that really meant a lot to her is that they cast her back for Wreck-It Ralph too, for Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Yeah, for Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Yeah, and that they were really happy with what she did. And so that made me very happy that she kind of got a second chance.
Yeah, because, I'm glad too.
Yeah, that was really cool. And there was never a sense of, I have a few issues with the princess scene, but I feel like, especially even in this like friendship quiz part, that it was definitely out of love, and it was very love. The Snow White was hugging the girl.
Yeah,
a very loving thing.
So not mean spirited and not cynical.
Yeah, not cynical.
Not cynical.
There wasn't. If that same scene was in a parody film like Shrek, like they would have Snow White be like a. They wouldn't have her swearing, but that kind of, she would be like,
she'd be crass, or she'd be really mad that she had to work or whatever, and then like, just something that, and she'd be rude. I mean, she'd be, it was just fake.
She'd have like a beard or something like that.
Right. So I'm really interested to know, because I didn't see the D23 presentation when this princess thing was revealed in 2017. But how did the real, the end product work for you?
So basically what happens is she ends up kind of running into the stormtroopers, and they end up kind of chasing her, and she's running down this sort of the studio lot, I guess you might say. And so her glitch, she sees this princess door, and at first she's like, oh no, princesses, oh no, but anyway, she goes in, because of her glitch she's able to get in there, and she's there with the princesses in their princess outfits. And so this first section is what they had at D23, and I was not a fan of it. And Pocahontas asked, what kind of princess are you? Do you have magic hair? Asked Rapunzel. No, answered Vanellope. Magic hands? Said Elsa. No. Do animals talk to you? Pocahontas, Jasmine, and Cinderella asked. No. Were you poisoned? Snow White asked dramatically. No. Cursed? Asked Aurora and Tiana. No. And kidnapped or enslaved? That's the line that irritates me. And that was, I think, this is from Rapunzel, Belle, Cinderella, Elsa, and Anna. And the thing that irritated me about that is that how many times have we had to defend that Belle did not have Stockholm Syndrome. She was not.
Yeah.
She was not enslaved.
Yeah.
She chose of her own power to stay with the beast. It was a conscious choice that she made, a deal with him. It's not the same. She could have left, and she did leave successfully twice in the movie. So the idea that she's a slave is just not correct and not right. And so that really irritated me. And again, I think separated out from the rest of the movie, it feels very Shrekian. And I don't think most of the jokes are all that funny in that scene. I think it's actually the casual scene that gets funny. I think there's a couple jokes, but a lot of these are a little bit cheap in there. But I was willing to be forgiving of it. But that's the one, kidnapped and enslaved, that I didn't like. So I don't know. What did you think of it?
Well, again, I had only heard about it. I knew that how unhappy you were with it. So I felt kind of bad that I was laughing so hard, but then I was just like, well, I think it's funny. So sorry. I don't, I don't mean to be, offensive, but I thought it was really, really funny.
Yeah.
And overall nicely done. I mean, I could understand why you and others might have been kind of upset about it, but for me, I thought it was all in good fun.
Yeah, I agree. In the end, it turned out well. I was also, I think it was a long day at D23. I'd waited so long and I was exhausted by the time we finally got in there. And the one new thing that they had for us was they had a little show about Coco, but nothing blew my mind. And they had a clip for a Planes movie that we're never going to see and I didn't care about. And then they have this scene. This is the big scene. The big reveal, and I was just kind of, what are they doing? And so I think that's my only defense. It was a long day. D23 is exhausting.
No need to defend. I'm glad though that it worked out for you overall. Yeah. I mean that it ended up working, in the film, and that it's not something that you really hated.
No, only that line I didn't like, but other than that, I was pretty forgiving of it in the end. And then I did think the one really funny joke was do you have, Jasmine says, do you have daddy issues? And Vanellope says, I don't even have a mom. And almost every princess in the room squealed, neither do we. That's pretty funny. Because I think that, am I right in saying that Rapunzel and Moana are they the only? Oh no, I guess Mulan also has a mom.
Yeah, so they're the ones who kind of stood out. I mean, just didn't give her a little hug, kind of that. Yeah, and the rest of them,
because I think the rest don't have a mom.
Yeah, they don't, right? They kind of join her in the middle of the screen. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess Aurora has a mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, Aurora has a mom. But anyway, that was pretty funny. But I feel bad that I was making you feel awkward about laughing.
Well, no, I just wanted to be, courteous about it. I didn't.
No,
I didn't
that's
want
funny.
to be rude, right? Because I knew how unhappy you were with that scene.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think it does make a big difference in context, and so anyway, it's interesting. But let's see, and I'm not a huge fan of the do people assume all your problems got solved because of a big strong man. Not a huge fan of that line either, because I feel like we've been having pretty strong independent princesses for a long time, and I think even the old princesses are stronger than given credit for. And I mean, I guess you could say that people assume, that doesn't mean it's actually true. But I don't know, I don't love that line. What do you think? You were fine with it?
I was fine because, again, I know it just seemed like it was just playing up to the princess stereotype. I mean, to the stereotype of how people classify these stories. So I thought it was played for laughs, and I didn't have an issue with it. But I can understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. So then they're like, "Who made your gown? I've never seen anything like that." And and so that's when they get in the casual clothes. And
those casual clothes, I thought they were really funny. What did you think?
I love this casual clothes. Even in the trailer, I much preferred the casual trailers over the other scene.
Yeah.
And here as well.
They must have had so much fun at Disney designing those. I mean, the artists.
Yeah.
Because all of them were wearing, kind of these ironic T-shirts that from their own stories.
Yeah. And I can only assume they're going to be selling those.
For sure.
In the parks.
Then they'll be selling those. Yeah. They're Disney. They have to.
Yeah. Which one would you want? Do you remember? Which one was your favorite?
I had a few favorites. I thought Moana's was hilarious. #shiny. And then it had the name was that crab.
Yeah, that was really good. Tamatoa.
Yeah. I thought Mulan looked very stylish. She had on a really cool kind of Asian track jacket thing, and so that one was like with some dragons on it, so that was less ironic, but just cool. I mean, I just thought it looked really cool. How about you? Did you have a favorite?
I really liked them all, and I kind of feel like Ariel was sort of the star. She was kind of more of the leader. Yeah. I think of the princesses than I was expecting. Yeah. I mean, they all get sort of their moments, but she gets definitely, I think, the biggest laughs of the whole thing with, her thingamabobs and her singing jokes and all in good fun, because Ariel is my favorite. And yeah. And I was happy about that. I was really happy because I could just hear Jodie's voice.
Yes.
Who I love so much. And I really admire her so much. And so that made me really happy too. I mean, you think like some of my favorite actresses of all time are in this movie.
Yeah.
Gal Gadot, I just adore Wonder Woman so much. You have Paige O'Hara, you have Jodie Benson.
Yeah.
Incredible. Laia Carvalho is in this, and
Mandy Moore. I mean, these, all the ones that just said are still alive.
Really fun. And so that made me happy. And so they basically tell her, she asks them about, they ask her about her dream of all the thingamabobs in this entire world, I never thought I'd get to wear a real, what's it called again? Oh, yeah, shirt. That was really good. That was great. And yeah. And Ariel says, Broken's like, I once had a dream that I might wear a shirt. And Penelope says, what's going on? And Jasmine says, she's singing. Yeah, duh, but there was like music and a spotlight. You all saw it, right? That's what happens when a princess sings about her dreams. And she says, I assure you, that has never happened to me, not once. Well, why don't you try right now? What is that you really want? Sing about it. Okay, sure. So then Penelope says, oh, steering wheel. Oh, steering wheel. Yes, I want a steering wheel. Belle, well, there's a lot to unpack there. So this steering wheel you sing of, that's a metaphor? No metaphor. I literally meant a steering wheel. I think the issue is I'm a lousy singer. And then Moana says, sometimes your song, Mulan says, sometimes your song can't start until you go somewhere to reflect. What works for some of us is finding a body of water and staring at it. Pocahontas agreeing with Mulan. So anyway, they start, Moana tells her, I stare at the ocean, Cinderella, soap bubbles. And honestly, I don't think I'd ever kind of realize that most of the I Want songs involve some kind of water.
Some kind of water. I know, exactly.
Which is hilarious. I mean,
it was so funny. Yeah.
I mean, it's not true for Belle because that's it. Like, but it's almost like Field of Grain, kind of a little bit.
Yeah.
But
a lake nearby.
That was hilarious. I really enjoyed that, and then it gets up to another "Which Princess Are You" game. I guess it's back to the gowns, girls," said Tiana with a sigh. And lovely to meet you, said Aurora. Best of luck finding your song. So there we go. And so then we go to, so overall, I guess I have to eat a little crow on this princess scene because it turned out way better than I would have expected. And I think that they actually added to it because, well, I don't think I know that they actually added to it because Pedro Harris said at Comic-Con that they did an additional whole nother recording in June.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah.
So I don't know what scene was added. If they added more to the casual part or to coming later on or what, but I think they made it work better than what we saw at D23. And you have to take things at D23 with a grain of salt because it's just it's still in workshop mode. I mean, it was...
Right. I mean, it was a year plus, right?
Yeah.
Before, yeah.
So, anyway, like I said, I probably have to eat a little crow on that one, but I'm glad it turned out better than I was expecting. That's yay. So, so then Ralph, I can't remember, is it before he earns the money or I think it's after he gets the money they need. And then he stumbles into the comment section of BooksTube, a BuzzTube, and then as a YouTuber, I mean, this is all stuff that I could very much relate to. In fact, it was so funny. Just as we were in the movie, I look on when we get out. I look at I have a notice, and it's I had done a podcast on Maquia, an anime film called Maquia, and I get this comment that says, "Your name sucks." 6 out of 10, which I'm like, in what world is that a sucky score? Like 6 out of 10, that's like, to me, it's more than half. It's solid. And he's like, "Your name sucks. Maquia is way better." I'm like, what a weird comment. I think that's so, okay. It was just really funny coming out of this movie to get a comment like that.
You have to get a rude comment. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was funny. It was the worst. I hate him. It just says Ralph couldn't believe it. The people giving him hearts weren't laughing with him at all. They were laughing at him. Every single comment was cruel. Yo, Ralph, you and your dude, I gotta show you. So that's yes, and then she sees yes, instantly saw the sadness in his eyes. Oh, Ralph, first rule of the internet: do not read the comments. She says, okay, well, hold on now, said yes. It's not all bad. The internet can also be a place where you find a steering wheel at one website and make enough money to buy it at another. Congratulations, Ralph, you did it. So I thought it was interesting. How do you think that they handled that whole sort of dynamic?
I thought it was interesting. In fact, I thought I had read somewhere that there was a brief interview with either Rich Moore or Phil Johnson, who were the co-directors of it. And Phil Johnson is the screenwriter. He also wrote the original, Wreck-It Ralph. But I thought he mentioned that they were going to tackle online bullying in the movie. That was really, I think, the only scene that talked about it.
Uh-huh.
But I thought it was an effective scene, because clearly, as it would anybody, it's upsetting, to read these mean comments. But Ralph has got, it helps Ralph just get more resolve about getting the steering wheel and then getting home.
Yeah,
What did you think about it?
I've gotten a lot of, I've gotten my share of mean comments, people commenting on my appearance or people commenting on, something that I do. And so you do have to have a pretty thick skin.
Oh, absolutely.
I thought it was it's so easy to be cynical about the internet. And this was honest, but it was not cynical, which I thought was impressive.
Impressive.
It was good.
Another, more kudos to them that they kept. Yeah, they kept it honest, but not cynical.
Yeah. So then you have Vanellope. Ralph tells Vanellope that he has the money, so excited, going to eBay. On the way, he gets E-Boy to take him to eBay.
Yeah.
And and so Vanellope's very excited about that. It says, wow, I can't believe it. I get to go. She kind of stops home. Vanellope said quietly, I guess I do just want a steering wheel. Her excitement suddenly faded as the reality of going back to Sugar Rush set in. She knew she was supposed to feel happy, but for some reason she didn't. After all they had been through, why wasn't she thrilled to know she would be going back home? Vanellope looked at the puddle again and noticed something strange in its reflection. And so it ends up being Slaughter Race in the pool reflection. Then she began to sing. The song poured out of her, rhymes and all, as she strolled through the high-octane racing game, exploring and admiring. And so she ends up going back to Slaughter Race. And so she meets up with Shank, and they have this sort of a hologram type phone that they have, which was pretty
Ralph
cool.
and Vanellope have that. I think Buzz, the yes, gave them, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think
it's almost like just a two-way communicator, where they can talk to each other. Yeah.
And I mean, it's sort of maybe like an instant messenger, but with instant video or something like that. And so she kind of leaves it open after he calls, and but on mute. That's right.
Yeah.
And so she's there with Shank, and she finally tells Shank that she wants to stay in Slaughter Race, and that's where she wants to be. Ralph overhears this, and he becomes very upset, and he thinks that Slaughter Race is dangerous for her. He's never really liked it, even from the very beginning, and he just doesn't understand what Vanellope sees in it, what she likes about it. And so he's very upset and wants to find some way to convince her to. He feels like she's been brainwashed. He says that she's been brainwashed.
Yeah,
which was interesting. And so that's when he goes. He finds out from Spammy. He goes about this dark web because he remembers the virus from the Tron game early on, which I thought was a nice callback.
Yeah,
to that. And so he asks Spammy. Spammy takes him to meet the head of the dark web.
Dark web. It's just, like this crime lord, and I love that scene because it's like they're literally going underground,
Yeah.
down below.
Yeah.
And,
it's Double Dan.
Double Dan.
Double Dan kind of looks like Jabba the Hutt with like a bonus head on
with this bonus growth that's like his little brother.
Yeah. And he keeps Ralph as he's I thought the dialogue was pretty good there because he keeps accidentally saying like neck and things like,
right.
Good.
It's funny. So Double Dan is voiced by Alfred Molina, and he's really good. It's just it's not an extensive role, but it's a critical role. But Alfred Molina aces it too. So funny.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
No, sorry. I agree. He's really funny. There's like, I think they do a really good job. I think that that he's good. It kind of reminded me a little bit of the Godfather scene in Zootopia.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's very much like that. It plays homage to the Godfather and really to any kind of mobster movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Like for instance, he says, the reason I came to your neck of the face, I mean, there's a face in your neck. I mean, woods, neck of the woods.
And John C. Reilly, he's so funny. Yeah. He's so good in the role. He just aces it. Yeah.
Yeah. The reason I'm here is because I heard a rumor that you could give me a harmless virus to slow down the slaughter race game. So he's thinking that if it's slower, then Penelope won't like it as much.
Right, and then that'll give her another, a reason to go back to Sugar Rush.
But I also really liked that gourd. Little gourd thing.
I did too. Who's Spammy's friend, right?
Yeah. Gourd.
And it's just this little creepy dude who just keeps showing up, and good comic relief, and just good timing. And I think that's one of the things that I think that's great about Rich Moore, and I think Phil Johnson is pretty funny too. They just know how to do good comedic timing.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. And the gourd is Double Dan's cousin, evidently.
Yes. He kind of looks like him, kind of. Yeah.
A lot of shady characters hang out down here, so try to keep a low profile. Gord, that's Spammy's call. Gord instantly appeared beside him. Oh, there you are, said Spamley. He turned to Ralph. Now, Gord here, he has dabbled in virus making, but his cousin, the guy we're going to see, big old son of a gun, who goes by the name Double Dan, this dude is a virus making machine. So I thought that whole scene was a lot of fun. It worked.
I did too.
Really
I liked it. And again, when you get a little teaser of it, I think in the last trailer, and it was one of those like, oh dear, I wonder where this is going to go.
Yeah.
But I thought it worked great in context of the film.
Yeah. I mean, again, to compare it, there's a scene in the Emoji Movie where they go to the dark side of the web or something like that, and it just doesn't work near as well. It's not funny. There's nothing to keep it light, and so it just feels that it's like the dark side of email. It's like a spam folder. Mm-hmm. As I recall, and because they're trying to find something, I can't remember, but anyway, it just doesn't feel fun, even in a villainous kind of a way. It's not enjoyable. It just feels kind of almost, it feels cynical. It just doesn't work. And so he gets this virus that's going to destroy slaughter race or make it go slower. And they tell him, do not allow this outside of slaughter race. Do not, it will be a disaster. And the thing about this virus is that it feeds off of insecurity and fear. And so at first it starts growing because of Vanellope's insecurities and fear. And it appears but Vanellope is insecure about what Ralph is going to be thinking and about that. So we see a bunch of Ralphs start to appear in the game. And then the virus gets focused on Ralph, who is super insecure, and then it just keeps growing and growing and growing until until it bursts out of that game. And then you see there's thousands of these Ralphs.
Yeah,
and
Ralph just keeps getting duplicated, basically. It's just this virus that just starts doing it. So I believe they're calling it the Wreck-It Ralph virus in the human world, right? Too, like the Wreck-It Ralph virus is truly wrecking or breaking the internet. One thing I want to give a shout out to, Rachel, is that because I think there was some of these in this particular scene, and also a couple earlier too. But at New York Comic Con, I believe it was in September, Rich Moore and Phil Johnson talked about that they were going to have some internet personalities that had cameos in the film.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
And there are a few, I think, that show up in this scene, but they're kind of funny. I think, and again, it just depends on who you know. I only knew a couple of them. One of them wasn't even a cameo. Yes's assistant, that blue guy with the German accent, that's the comedian Flula Borg. And I don't know if you've ever seen any videos with Flula. And I think that Flula also teams up with Conan O'Brien on stuff. But he's silly. I mean, he's funny. I think he is German, but it's also like this character that he plays. So I thought that was a good gag that Flula played that character. And looking on IMDb, his character's name is Maybe, which is kind of funny, because he's the assistant to Yes. So, anyway,
that's a good find.
Yeah, and then the other one of them is really fast, but I'm a fan of this comedian named Colleen Ballinger, and Colleen does this character, and she has a YouTube channel called Miranda Sings. I don't know if you've ever seen Miranda Sings, but Miranda Sings thinks she's the best singer, and she gives like these music lessons, and she's horrible. Colleen is a professionally trained singer, and she's very talented, but this Miranda character is funny. So kind of a combo of Colleen and Miranda show up really fast in one of the scenes. And then there's Danny Fernandez, and I don't know Danny Fernandez.
I know the name. I've seen her guesting on some shows, but I've never actually watched her channel. Like, she's been on Screen Junkies and some other shows like that before that I've seen. But yeah, so I'm not sure exactly what she does, but yeah, that was really fun, and you get to see all these different people's internet crashing as it grows bigger and bigger and bigger.
Right,
and bigger.
and so I think, and this is where they use some of the cameos. There's another one named Tiffany Herrera, also known as Cupquake, who's another who I guess has got a YouTube channel or some kind of internet personality. So, but I thought that was fun that they did kind of these little cameos that for some people that I mean, again, I knew 2 out of the 5 or two out of the 4.
Yeah,
but anyway,
again, like, it really worked because you had people that were actually sort of affected.
Yes.
But like it was just better than, because I hate to keep using the Emoji Movie, but it's obvious.
No, but it's really it's a good comparison. Yeah.
Yeah, because in the Emoji Movie, the whole purpose of the movie is to get this kid to ask this girl out with a clever emoji, which makes no sense, first of all, because he's already gotten her phone number. If he has her phone number, he's already been comfortable talking to her, and like they're literally in the same room, and like things are getting very, very close to breaking down, shutting down, and he's got to get the phone fixed, or he's not going to be able to ask this girl out when they're like literally in the same room. So it's like, it just makes it feel cynical, because you're like, does children not have the ability to talk anymore? Where that's not what this was really at all. It was just like people that were enjoying themselves, participating in the internet. Oh, the internet's out. That's a pain. It wasn't. I don't know. It was so much better.
Yes. Yeah, I really liked how they handled it in Ralph Breaks the Internet too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed. And so then, yeah, it gets bigger, and there was definitely some homages to King Kong. I
Yes,
thought
which
in
I
the
thought was cool.
yeah,
And again, it's one of those things you just marvel at the detail of the computer and just how good the animation is at Disney,
yeah,
because that those who knows how many millions of little Ralphs that they had to create to make the one big giant King Kong Ralph.
yeah,
Uh, but I thought it looked really cool.
yeah. I
That
agree.
it wasn't just stupid. I
Yeah,
just thought this is a pretty cool thing, and I loved how so the real Ralph is fighting this creature, and one of the things he fights him with is a giant push pin from Pinterest, from the Pinterest site, which I thought
oh
was
yeah, I
really
forgot about that. You're right.
funny.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
forgot that. Yeah, he breaks into Pinterest and uses the giant pin.
the giant pins.
That was pretty good. That was fun. That
Yeah,
was good. And yeah, because the giant Ralph has Vanellope and is like, just like in King Kong.
yeah,
And they're trying to get the King Kong, uh, they're trying to get the giant Ralph over to like the antivirus site, so it'll kill it and part of the web. And then he Vanellope says, "That's it," said reassuringly to Giant Ralph. "Put him down and take me. I know that's what you want." "No, that's not what I want," Ralph said. "It's not right to hold a friend back from her dreams. You don't own her. That's not how friendship works. You need to let her go." And Giant Ralph stopped to listen to what Ralph was saying. "You need to let her go. I know it's going to hurt a little bit when you do. Heck, who am I kidding? It's going to hurt a lot. But you're going to be okay," Ralph said. Then he said to Vanellope, "And we're going to be okay, right, kid?" "Of course we are," Vanellope said. "Always." Giant Ralph blinked as the words settled in. It lowered its huge hand and gently set Vanellope on the top of nearby website. "Thanks, buddy," Vanellope said. "I feel good about this." And one by one, the clones begin to disappear. "Ralph, look, I think you fixed your insecurity." Relieved, Ralph cheered. "Woohoo!" uh, but once they'd all disappeared, he had nothing left to hold on to because he was being held up by these
Yeah.
things. And he was left to be 1,000 feet above the ground. "Oh no!" he screamed as he began to fall. Ralph, no!" Vanellope shouted. Just before Ralph crashed to the ground, the Oh My Disney Princesses swooped in and rescued him. Look up there," Belle exclaimed. "It's a big, strong man in need of rescuing."
Again, a great line, a totally appropriate line, and that is I just thought that was such a funny scene.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
we get a song from Alan Menken that they sing during, because singing
yeah,
is their power, brings them their powers. So
yeah.
that was really fun. That was unexpected. I wasn't expecting that, a song, Alan Menken song.
Yeah.
It
In
was pretty
fact,
fun.
that's so delightful. And then one other thing we did mention too is that Vanellope actually sings an Alan Menken song too. In when she's loving or longing to be part of Slaughter Race.
Oh, that's Alan Menken? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, Alan Menken wrote that too. The
Wow.
song is called a Place Called Slaughter Race, and he wrote the music, and then Phil Johnson, some other guy, wrote the lyrics. I saw it in the end, in the end credits, and
That's so cool.
so
Yeah.
and so funny. It kind of is one of those, that Slaughter Race song kind of reminded me of Enchanted. Where
That's a good comparison.
they're having fun with the formula, but again, it's not cynical. It's just funny and really appropriate for the character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the princesses sprang into action. They worked together to help, each one using her own special skill. Moana made a wave that Elsa froze so Ralph could slide down it before launching into the air again. With a variety of options, including dresses, a poison apple, and a rope made of hair, they built a parachute to slow Ralph's fall. "The parachute is working, you guys," Ariel said. Pocahontas used her wind power to push Ralph's chute towards a mattress website, causing him to land on top of a plush, comfy bed. I think it's actually maybe a little different in the, in the
I think
animated.
I think they made some changes in the final,
Yeah.
versus the novelization. But it's still, you get the same idea that the princesses come to his rescue and they use all their princess. There's their special, gifts or whatnot to help, and it's fun.
It's really fun.
delightful. Yeah.
It's not a cliched.
No.
Like it's not. They're not like warrior women. Like they are themselves.
They're themselves.
Yeah. Which I liked, and they all work together. And honestly, if they made a series just based on these princesses in this version, I'd watch it.
It would be a lot of fun. Yeah.
I never thought I was going to say that going into this in a million years. So just goes to show you.
Well, they made it fun. Yeah,
they did. So that was really, really good. And you do get also earlier when Vanellope's really mad at Ralph, she throws the medal down and it splits in half.
Yeah,
she's so mad at him.
That heart-shaped medal that almost looks like a frosted cookie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that the once Ralph lets go of his insecurity, then it goes away, and then they take the virus to security and to antivirus or whatever, and it's gone. And so Vanellope decides she's going to stay in Slaughter Race, and so Ralph has to be okay with that. And then you see them talking through the hologram thing, and I guess they can do it once a week. And then you get a scene with Felix and Calhoun.
We get a little update of how their parenting is going.
And it turns out we don't know what the secret is because of how it's very funny. How it's
really funny. It's a good gag. Yeah.
But they have tamed Taffeta. We know that at least.
Right. Right. The racers have gone. The Sugar Rush racers have gone from bratty to, courteous and polite.
Yeah. So that's really funny.
Parenting.
Yeah. And and you find out that Ralph has worked in a little bit more sort of spontaneity. He's like joined a book club, some other things into his life, and
the book club with Zangief.
Sonic. The Sonic, that's right. That was really funny.
Funny.
Yeah, that was really good. And so he has to be happy with this sort of new life. And I think that was like a perfect message for a movie about the internet, because that is kind of what it's sort of a weird thing that we are so connected, but in a way we sort of sometimes I feel sort of disconnected. It's weird. I mean, sometimes I think it was almost easier to keep in touch with people when you could only use the phone and letters.
And letters, right. You'd have to make a phone call and you talk to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's like people, I mean, if they aren't super active online and they don't live kind of near me, it can be, it's surprisingly difficult.
Yeah.
How hard it is. And so I kind of appreciated this very mature sort of end to the movie and this lesson that Ralph had to learn. And he learned to be less selfish and to think what other people want, because that can be really hard, when people like it can be in my family. I guess I related to it because in my family we are all extremely different, all 6 of us kids, and it can be struggle to see things from their point of view and what their dreams and their aspirations are, as I know it's sometimes hard for them to understand me. And what I know that, for instance, I know that more than one of them, especially my dad, have a really hard time understanding why I spend all this time on podcasting and things. And for someone like my dad, the fact that it's not making a lot of money for him is like, what is the point of this? And so I don't know, it's because they just see it from a totally different point of view than what I see it as.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think that was a really good lesson that, if they learned at the end of this movie.
I thought so too. And again, I just really like how they approached the ending, because it ended gently, and but again, not in a maudlin way, not in a manipulative way.
Yeah.
It just seemed like in a real honest way.
Mature
again,
way.
with the whole film. Yeah, mature. Yeah, perfectly said, Rach. And that worked for me, because again, you just feel like both Ralph and Vanellope progressed, you know, and they're still friends.
Yeah.
But it's just, the relationship is different. But I was impressed with how it ended. Yeah.
Very good. So yeah, it ended up being a really good movie. I really enjoyed it. I'm still debating about, you know, this versus Incredibles 2. You know, what do I like better? They both have their strengths.
And such different films, right? Yeah. And it's, again, for me, I as we said at the beginning, I liked Ralph Breaks the Internet more than I liked Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah,
so
definitely for me as well.
It's a strong sequel and really good movie.
And I will do my Disney Canon series entry on this film, which will be which will have clips and stuff like that, and it will be really fun. And I will give my definitive ranking then, in the Disney Canon. But I'm thinking, just off the top of my head, that it probably will end up somewhere around like 23, is my guess, which is really high, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I think my top 30 have an A grade. So it's the original was at 39, which was probably a little low, but anyway, the rankings are really hard. But it would probably be somewhere in that vicinity, but I will definitely let you all know what I end up doing as far as the ranking. But I think that people are going to be pleasantly surprised by this. I think it's a lot better than the trailers let you believe, definitely. And there is kind of there's post-credit scene you want to check out for.
Stay through the credits.
Yeah.
Stay to the bitter end.
Yeah.
I think you'll be rewarded.
Yeah. And I thought another solid score composition from Henry Jackman.
Oh, I like the score a lot too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they won me over. I had a lot of doubts, but they did a really good job. And so that just shows you should always have an open mind when you go into any film. And so great job to all involved. And so, yeah. So thanks so much, not only for getting me into the early screening, but for, talking about this tonight.
Oh, thank you. It was great to talk with you about it. I'm so glad we could go to the movie, and I'm so glad we could kind of, process through it.
Yeah, right when it was fresh on our mind.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see it again.
I know, me too. We'll have to go and see it again.
That'd be fun.
But yeah, so when you guys get to see this movie, let us know what you think. How do you think it ranks up with the original? I'm definitely really curious to find out from people that love the original what they think, because it may be a totally different experience than my experience, where I'm kind of on the original. I just think it's fine. So this to me was actually better. But so anyway, I'm really curious to see how that all pans out. It'll be interesting. So yeah, that'll be great. So next month on Talking Disney, we are actually taking a little bit of a break from the Disney canon, and we are going to talk about the classic Disney film Mary Poppins just in time for Mary Poppins Returns coming to theaters. We are going to talk about the classic film.
Yeah, the original.
One of the great family films ever made.
Yeah.
No question.
One of Walt Disney's crowning film achievements too, Yeah. Great
film. I'm so excited to talk about it. And so that'll be really fun. I'm really looking forward to it. And we are going to talk, we have obscure animation for November in this corner of the world. And then in December, we're going to be talking about the film Mickey's Christmas Carol just as a little break, again for the holidays. So that should be really fun. So
Yeah, I'm excited
yeah, me too.
for that too.
We'll look forward to that. And thanks again. And so how can people find you?
Well, I'm on Twitter at Stanford Clark, and I have a movie blog, which is moviespastandpresent.com.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, so check that out. And please follow us on, or please put in your reviews on iTunes, and give us a thumbs up here on YouTube if you're watching there. So thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Rachel. Great to talk to you.
Yeah, we'll talk again soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.